Bonjour, bienvenue à notre rendez-vous pour la presse en ligne et en direct sur OBS. Nous sommes aujourd'hui le jeudi 22 avril. So this morning, the college held, in fact, I think is still holding, or was still holding a couple of minutes ago, an orientation debate on the Fit for 55 package, where commissioners are discussing how to make our policy toolbox fit for meeting our 55% emission reduction target for 2030. This discussion comes ahead of the presentation in June of 13 interconnected legislative proposals covering policies ranging from climate, energy, transport, forestry, and buildings to taxation, trade, and research. In this vein, I would also like to remind you that President von der Leyen will this afternoon deliver a speech at the Global Leaders Summit hosted by US President Joe Biden on the occasion of Earth Day. You can, of course, follow this live on EBS. President von der Leyen will today also address the new European Bauhaus Conference. Also in this case, you can follow her remarks live on EBS+. And now over to Johannes, who has an announcement on the Digital Green Certificate, as well as good news for researchers.
Thank you very much, Eric, and good afternoon. Indeed, we have good news to share on the Digital Green Certificate, which keeps on making important progress. Member states in the eHealth network agreed yesterday on technical implementation guidelines. This is a crucial step for the establishment of the necessary infrastructure at EU level. The guidelines cover the EU gateway, the data structure and encoding mechanisms for the certificates, including the QR code, and reference implementations on which member states can build their national solutions for issuing, verifying, and storing digital green certificates. In parallel, we now encourage all member states to roll out the technical solutions at national level as quickly as possible. Because if you want to have digital green certificates in place for the summer, it is of utmost importance to advance the work on the technical implementation in parallel to the ongoing legislative process. And as always, no, not as always, we have more information on this in a press release. Nous avons également des très bonnes nouvelles à partager aujourd'hui sur le front de la recherche et de l'innovation. Nous venons d'annoncer les lauréats du concours 2020 pour les subventions avancées du Conseil européen de la recherche. Ces subventions, d'une valeur de 507 millions d'euros, seront attribuées à 209 chercheurs de premier plan dans toute l'Europe. Ils travailleront sur divers projets innovants et ambitieux qui cherchent, par exemple, à mieux comprendre les liens entre l'obésité et le cancer du pancréas, les menaces liées au virus sauvage ou trouver de nouvelles façons de construire les bâtiments de l'avenir. Comme toujours, vous avez plus d'informations dans les Daily News. Merci.
Thank you very much, Johannes, for these two important announcements. And now over to Balash, who has an announcement about our support to South Sudan.
Indeed, good afternoon. So Commissioner Lenarčič is currently in South Sudan, where he will announce today that the EU is allocating over 43 million euro in humanitarian assistance to the country. These funds will help those in need of protection and food assistance, as well as those affected by man-made and natural disasters. The funding will also help address a range of other acute humanitarian needs. It will provide humanitarian support to communities affected by violence while strengthening preparedness to deal with new shocks, including epidemics and natural disasters. With millions of children remaining out of school in South Sudan, part of the funding will also be allocated to education in emergencies. Now, more information on the topic in the press release.
Thank you very much, Balash. I believe you meant to say 43 million euros,
Yes.
just to be absolutely sure everybody understood. Thank you. Finalement, permettez-moi de vous rappeler que les ministres de l'énergie se réunissent aujourd'hui pour une visioconférence informelle. La commissaire Kadri Simpson y représente la Commission. Les ministres discuteront de l'application de fonds européens à l'efficacité énergétique, notamment dans le cadre de la vague de rénovation et de la stratégie d'intégration du système énergétique, en particulier du rôle de la production d'énergie décentralisée et de la création de communautés d'énergie renouvelable. Une conférence de presse avec la commissaire Simpson aura lieu à 13 h aujourd'hui. Avec ceci, nous pouvons passer à vos questions et je passe tout de suite la parole à Athanasios.
Thanks very much. Bonjour. Next week, as you know, we're going to have the 5+1 meeting of the United Nations on the Cyprus issue. Could you please tell us if you have finally received an invitation from the United Nations, from the Secretary General, and if so, who are you sending there in Geneva? Thanks.
Thank you. A question for Peter.
Hello, good afternoon, and thank you for the question, Athanasios. We stressed several times, and I think the last time when it was very clearly formulated was when the High Representative Borrell was in Nicosia last month, that the European Union welcomes the forthcoming talks on the Cyprus problem under the auspices of the UN, and we as the European Union, we remain fully committed to a comprehensive settlement of the Cyprus problem in accordance with the relevant resolution of the United Nations Security Council. Now, we look forward to the resumption of negotiations under the auspices of the UN, and the European Union remains ready to play an active role in supporting the negotiations, including by appointing a representative to the UN Good Office's missions. And this position is long-standing, and we are ready to do whatever we can. And I can only add that a comprehensive settlement, that means agreement by both sides, would be beneficial for Cyprus and for the EU and for the wider security and stability in the region. When it comes to the technical issue of the invitation at this stage so far, I cannot confirm that we would have received an invitation at this stage.
Thank you very much. This opens our foreign relations chapter, so I would ask you please to keep your hand raised only if you have a question, first on the Cyprus talks, and then we will move to other foreign relations issues. So a question on the talks related to Cyprus. Susanna. Susanna, I can hear
Yes,
another
sorry.
voice in yours. Is your
It's not
question-
on this issue. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I see no other further questions on Cyprus. Well, Athanasios has decided to ask a follow-up, I guess.
Yeah, it was not totally clear. It was clear, but it was not totally clear, so I will attempt another try. You said that you have not received an invitation at this stage. When you say at this stage, do you mean at this specific event that's going to happen in Geneva, or planning and ahead of the specific event coming up in Geneva? So do you expect to get an invitation for the specific 5+1 setting, or you expect to have an invitation in general for some other talks, negotiations that are going to happen along the way? Thanks.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks, Athanasios. Well, I was referring all the time to the specific event that is upcoming, so that means the 5+1 talks. And when I said at this stage, as I said, the UN is the one responsible for sending out invitations. At this stage, until today, we haven't received any specific invitation, but it doesn't change anything on the overall position of the EU that we remain ready to play an active role and support this process so that both sides can focus on what's ahead of them and find finally a solution that is long overdue. And we will always remain ready to do that.
So I think that clarifies the issue. Are there other questions on foreign relations for us today? Please raise your hand. Lukasz.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question on Russian diplomats. High Representative at the press conference on Monday informed that the Czech Republic had not asked EU countries for the coordinated expulsion of Russian diplomats from its territory. And after that, the Czech Minister of Foreign Affairs said that actually he asked for such a solidarity for coordinated expulsion. So Could you explain who is right and who is wrong on that matter? Thank you.
Peter, what can we comment on this?
Well, thank you very much. And it's not a question of who is right and who is wrong. I mean, it's about the particular context of the question which was asked on Monday, and the question was focused on, or the answer by the High Representative was focused on the exact wording of that question regarding coordinated, wide-scale expulsion of Russian diplomats and potential sanctions against Russia, where the High Representative was saying that no decision was taken. And I think this is again like in a way issue that is old news from Monday, because in the meantime you have seen a very clear statements from the whole EU stressing the solidarity of the European Union, which by the way the HRVP mentioned also in his opening remarks at the press conference after the FAC. So really it's not about any kind of perceived contradictions. It's about a specific wording regarding specific issues, specific questions. But bottom line is that the EU expressed full and firm solidarity with the Czech Republic, most recently also underlined one more time by the joint statement, the HRVP declaration on behalf of EU27 issued yesterday, where the European Union is very clearly stating the extent of solidarity expressed towards Czech Republic and the support the EU is giving to the Czech Republic. And we stand, 27 member states or 26 member states stand behind the Czech Republic in its current spat with the Russian Federation.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other questions related to EU relations with Russia? Lucas, you have a follow-up. Go ahead.
Yes, several weeks ago, after a visit to Moscow in the European Parliament, High Representative said that he will submit his own proposal concerning the sanctions on Russia. He didn't do it, and now he's saying that the situation is getting worse because Navalny is still in prison, and we have some Russian troops near the border with Ukraine, and also we have this scandal in the Czech Republic. So maybe it's a good moment for High Representative just to submit a new proposal concerning the sanctions.
Well, I don't fully agree with. Sorry, Eric.
Yeah, it's not really a question, to be honest, huh? But anyway, go ahead.
Exactly, but that's why I would like to just set something straight, that I don't agree with his interpretation that the HRVP promised in the parliament that he would submit and he didn't submit, because in fact he submitted the names and that there was an agreement and the EU proceeded with sanctions in this particular case. And again, let me recall what he said on Monday, that the situation on Monday he said that so far no decision has been taken, but the situation can change. And again, even if the EU decides to proceed with the sanctions, you know that we never discuss the details publicly, but bottom line is whether the HRVP submits proposals or not, it's in the end up to the member states to agree on them. And as we've been explaining on other occasions as well, before submitting proposals to the member states, who in the end have to agree on those and adopt them, we always do the consultations to see if it makes sense to make a submission and proposal, because it's a question of effectiveness and also intelligence in a way to go into a process which has a chance to succeed. So this is what we are engaged basically every day, not only on Russia, not only on Navalny case, but also on many other countries and issues. So yeah, regarding this more comment than a question, I would like to reject that and indeed say that HRVP did what he indicated in the parliament. We are proceeding, and the situation as it was on Monday this week might not be the situation which will be Monday next week, because the situation on the ground with Ukraine and Russia develops, the situation in relation with Czech Republic and Russia develops, and the EU, including High Representative, were very clear that we stand behind Czech Republic, that we are very clear in rejecting what Russia is currently doing on all the different fields, Navalny, Ukraine, Czech Republic, etc. And we will be acting as appropriate. And this is what the current discussions among the member states are all about.
Thank you. Oliver, a question on Russia.
Yes, hi. I'm not really sure I've gotten the answer to the original question of Łukasz, which basically is what changed in the High Rep's perception of the situation in Czechia. and the role of Russian foreign and military intelligence in these explosions between Monday and between yesterday. Why were we told on Monday that the Czechs didn't ask for a concerted reaction? And yesterday, actually, he issues this press release. What changed in your perception? Thank you.
Peter.
Thank you, Oliver. One more clarification. It was not press release what was issued yesterday. Yesterday was issued the declaration by the High Representative on behalf of EU 27 member states. These type of declarations is approved by all the member states. So that's just to clarify the terminology and the procedures. And again, I mean, I can only repeat what I said. I mean, let's look at the remarks from Monday in the context of the specific questions which was asked and the specific answer which was given. The answer was focused on the specific question, focusing or underlining the decisions, that no decisions have been taken at that particular moment. But again, listen to the doorstep by the High Representative, listen to his opening remarks where he was saying about, where he was talking about this issue, about the solidarity with the Czech Republic and the readiness of the EU to do something with it. And then again, in order to remove any doubts, I mean, there was also another statement issued by his spokesperson already on Monday evening, just to clarify that there is full solidarity, unequivocal solidarity with the Czech Republic. So I have the feeling that we are trying to create an artificial issue because the bottom line here is what Russia is doing on all the fronts I mentioned already before, with human rights, regarding Mr. Navalny and his supporters, with Ukraine and the unprecedented military build-up, dangerous and worrying military build-up at the borders, and the activities on the soil of the EU member states, most recently in the Czech Republic. And there the EU's position, HRVP's position is very clear. We stand behind the Czech Republic and we stand in full solidarity with the Czech Republic vis-à-vis these actions by Russia.
Oliver, you have a follow-up.
Yes, thank you. Peter, I'm not raising an artificial issue there. The Russians over the weekend have expelled how many? About 20 Czech diplomats from the Czech embassy in Moscow, which, if I read the news right, means the Czech embassy in Moscow is basically crippled because there's almost no more working there anymore. What is full solidarity of the of the European Union in such a situation? What does full solidarity mean when a member state's embassy in Russia is basically incapacitated because the Russian government kicked out the biggest part of the embassy staff?
Thanks. I think that's a slightly different question from the one which was posed today. So, Peter.
No problem, but indeed, I mean, thank you, Oliver, for this. And this is exactly the solidarity. I mean, for example, take the public statements, take the public remarks about the strong solidarity by the EU expressed by now on 4 occasions, doorstep by the HRVP ahead of the Foreign Affairs Ministers meeting on Monday, his remarks after that at the press conference about the strong EU solidarity, then the spokesperson statement issued on Monday evening, and then the EU 27 declaration, one more time reinforcing at the highest level, basically, when it comes to the foreign policy issues, the strong support. So this is one way. Public declaration of the support plays a role in diplomacy. Diplomacy is also about public statements. And then let me just recall what the declaration is saying or flagging, that apart from expressing full solidarity with the Czech Republic, supporting the actions taken by the Czech authorities, we as EU 27 stand ready to support further efforts by the Czech Republic to bring those responsible for this blowing up of military depots in Vrbětice to justice. And then the EU continues saying that disruptive actions of Russian intelligence services against the interest and security of the EU and its member states will continue to be met with the staunchest resolve, including at the level of the European Union, as appropriate. And this is what I replied to Lukáš. This is something which is a subject of ongoing discussions among the member states, how to best respond, how to respond in the best way possible. But what is most important is this very clear statement of the European solidarity with the Czech Republic, because Czech Republic is part of the EU, Czech Republic is the EU, and the EU stands behind the Czech Republic. And this is what the HRVP is saying right from the start of this issue.
Thank you. Christian, une question sur les relations avec la Russie.
pense que j'ai passé le temps pour que vous m'entendiez. Oui, Peter, je voudrais continuer sur ce sujet. Moi, je voudrais une précision. On tourne autour d'une demande de la République tchèque qui a appelé à une action collective, à la fois les pays de l'UE et les pays de l'OTAN, en demandant à tous les membres de l'UE et à tous les membres de l'OTAN d'expulser des diplomates russes pour être solidaires avec la République tchèque. C'est ce qui s'était passé lors de l'attentat à Salisbury au Royaume-Uni, l'affaire Skripal. 150 diplomates russes ont été expulsés, 150 diplomates européens ont été expulsés. Alors je voulais savoir si cette demande a été réellement formulée par la République tchèque, parce que pour l'instant on reste avec un message du ministre sur son compte Facebook. Ok, je sais que les réseaux sociaux, c'est quelque chose d'important, mais là, je voudrais savoir si c'est formellement sur la table des ministres, si pour l'instant, il n'y a pas eu de suite, et si ça reste quand même une demande qui est à l'examen. Merci à toi.
Peter.
Merci, Christian. Merci. La décision sur les mesures appropriées, par exemple l'expulsion des diplomates, c'est une décision pour les pays membres individuels. C'est une individuelle décision de chaque pays membre parce que c'est la compétence des pays membres. Ce sont les diplomates accrédités avec l'accréditation dans ce territoire spécifique. Et comme je dis, comme dit déjà la déclaration, l'Union européenne va considérer les prochaines actions comme appropriées. Je ne veux pas entrer dans les détails sur cette discussion ou les considérations dans chaque pays membre ou dans le niveau européen. Le fait est qu'on a discuté le problème de la Russie dans tous les aspects récemment, dans le contexte des forces militaires à la frontière ukrainienne, dans le contexte du traitement de M. Navalny et dans le contexte des événements à la République tchèque et aussi dans la Bulgarie. Donc, c'est une discussion complexe. On n'a pas pris aucune décision le lundi dernier, mais la discussion continue et comme la déclaration d'hier dit, nous sommes prêts à prendre les actions comme appropriées. Donc, je ne veux pas préjuger les actions des pays membres, mais le fait reste qu'il y a une solidarité inéquivocable et très ferme de l'Union européenne avec la République tchèque et il y a une position très ferme de l'Union européenne vis-à-vis Russie sur tous les aspects qu'on a discutés, Navalny, Ukraine, la République tchèque et les autres actions que la Russie fait dans le territoire des pays membres. Donc, ce sont les discussions qui continuent, qui sont en cours et si on a pris quelques décisions par les pays membres, on va annoncer la décision. Mais comme je dis, je ne veux pas préjuger le résultat des discussions qui sont en cours dans ce contexte.
Okay, thank you, Peter. We've been on Russian relations with Russia now for 25 minutes. Please, if you have questions on this still, let's come to new angles because I think that Peter has said everything he can on the issue of the expulsion of diplomats. David, tu avais une question sur la Russie. Yes, it was David Carreta, but never mind. David,
Yes,
go ahead.
I do.
Go ahead, David.
They released the speak button, so I guess the confusion wasn't just on my part. Thank you very much, Eric. Let me first express some solidarity with Christian and Oliver because I do find also the HRVP's statement somewhat inconsistent on Russia. Peter, if I could just follow up on your point just now that diplomats are accredited to individual member states. I think when we come out of the metro at Art Loire here in Brussels, we do see a very large permanent representation to the European Union of the Russian Federation. And I just wonder, are you suggesting that in fact there are not Russian diplomats who are accredited directly to the European Union and therefore there would be no possibility of a European Union response on that level? Thanks. I have another foreign affairs question, but we can wait for that for later. Thank you.
Peter.
Hi, David. No, in no way I'm suggesting that there wouldn't be Russian diplomats or whoever accredited at the European institutions. In fact, they are. But I was talking about the possible coordinated response to what happened between Czech Republic and Russia. And there, the EU institutions, of course, cannot order the member states to do something. So we can proceed on our own, as each individual member state can proceed. So you should see this in this context. And then again, like on the procedural side, the EU cannot expel diplomats from Belgium. First of all, I mean, they can remove their accreditation to the EU institutions, but they will be still accredited in Belgium to the Belgian Foreign Ministry. So it's a little bit more complicated, which is not saying that we cannot do that. But of course, we are always willing to take appropriate measures when agreed. And if these measures should be agreed in a coordinated manner, of course, the EU institutions will not be the one blocking the consensus. The EU institutions are always the first one for the consensus. So this is what I meant when I was explaining the issue of possible expulsions by individual member states of the NATO and of the European Union. And by the way, if you remember the issue of Salisbury, there was also not everyone in line, and it was not a coordinated expulsion of diplomats from all the back then 28 member states, but there was coordinated response agreed, part of which was that number of member states also expulsed the diplomats. We are not there yet in this particular case, but as I said, the EU is strongly behind Czech Republic, supports all the steps the Czech Republic is taking in this, and we stand ready as EU27 to take further steps as appropriate.
Thank you. We will take one last question on relations with Russia today, because I know that there are many other colleagues who want to raise other issues. David Carretta, this time.
Oui, merci Eric. La République tchèque hier a annoncé que 5 personnes ont été arrêtées. C'était en relation à un groupe qui envoie des combattants dans l'est de l'Ukraine, combattre avec les forces séparatistes pro-russes. Je me demandais s'il y a un commentaire à ça. Et plus en général, quelle est l'évaluation, parce que les déclarations c'est très bien, mais en ce moment on voit qu'il y a des agents russes qui commettent des actes terroristes sur le territoire européen, qui organisent des groupes paramilitaires pour combattre à côté des forces pro-russes en Ukraine, etc. Est-ce que cela mérite quelque chose de plus que des déclarations? Ça, c'est la question de fond que je voulais poser. Merci.
Merci, Peter.
Merci David. Peut-être un bref sommaire de mes réponses, que j'ai déjà données. La déclaration d'hier offre la réponse sur la question. Nous soutenons toutes les actions des autorités tchèques qui ont appris dans ce contexte de développement récemment. Donc, nous soutenons la République tchèque. Et comme je dis, la déclaration d'hier ou la déclaration de lundi, ce ne sont pas la seule expression de notre solidarité. Nous avons indiqué comme l'Union européenne que nous allons considérer les autres actions comme appropriées. Et c'est la situation. Et comme je dis, je ne veux pas préjuger le processus qui est en cours.
Merci. Nous passons maintenant à d'autres sujets, relations extérieures. David, you had a question on another issue. Still foreign relations.
Yeah, thanks very much, Eric. And I guess for you or for Peter, following up on the idea that there are, in fact, many third country diplomats, including the ambassador from the Russian Federation, accredited in the EU. I now understand there are more than 20 designated ambassadors to the European Union that are awaiting final approval and acceptance of their credentials. Many of them have in fact presented those credentials on the other side of the street to the Council President Charles Michel, but for some reason have not been able to present those credentials to the Commission President, and that includes Japan, Canada, to G7 partners of course, but apparently quite a few others. And I wonder if there's some explanation as to why that hasn't happened. There seems to be some growing concern among those partners about when they will be fully credentialed. And of course, there's the UK situation, but I guess that's separate.
Thank you very much. I don't know if Peter has anything to say on this. Peter? No? So listen, David, I'm not aware of the situation, so we will investigate and come back to you on that. Other foreign relations issues. Salam.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, actually, my question is about Iran. I think that we're very close enough for the deal next week between the U.S. administration and Iran. But yesterday, actually, there were this missile exploded in an area close to the Israeli nuclear reactor. Do you think that this, what happened, this incident will affect the talks in Vienna? And I don't know, the EU, since the EU is the one who is leading these talks, trying to contact both sides, Israel and Iran, to ease the tension between both of them after this incident. This is the reaction, actually, after Natan's attacks. And what about the U.S.? Do you think that the U.S. now, they were talking actually about including the Iranian program, missile program in the nuclear deal. So any update about this issue? Thank you.
Thank you. For Peter again.
Thank you, Salam. Well, what we think, you asked several times about our opinion, so I will tell you in general. I mean, what we think is that there is no alternative to the ongoing process in order to solve all the aspects related to the Iranian nuclear program. This is why we are engaged in this process. The Joint Commission had a number of meetings already over the last few days and weeks. They will continue next week between the participants of the JCPOA. By the way, Israel is not participant of the JCPOA and is not participating in these current talks in Vienna. That needs to be very, very clear. And there are contacts between our coordinator, so EU coordinator, and the US delegations at this stage. This is what all I can say. We are engaged in a very sensitive, in very demanding process. There are signs of encouragement. There are signs that could be perceived as positive. The process is not at the end, so there is still a lot of to overcome, a lot of challenges ahead. But there is determination on the side of all those who are involved to continue with these efforts, with the overall aim to bring back the JCPOA back on track to the full compliance with all the obligations. So this is what we are engaged in, and this is what will continue next week in Vienna.
Thank you very much, Peter. I think this brings us to the end of the Foreign Affairs chapter of today's midday briefing. So let us move to other issues. I would like to give the floor to Susanna, who had raised her hand early on. Susanna, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Susana Freixas, SIC Expresso. Actually, I have a question, two different questions. One, can I ask both now and then you take one of them later? So
start with one chapter and then we'll come to another. Just tell us what the other chapter is. That way.
It's just because I have to go live and I don't believe okay. I will be able to come back. So I suppose people are more interested, my colleagues are more interested in vaccines. So my question is related to this possibility to move forward with legal action against AstraZeneca. I would like to understand, well, first of all, if this means that the resolution dispute mechanism is not working, or is this something that is actually a second step of this mechanism? And I also like to understand if you need the green light of the member states to move forward, or this is something that the Commission can do all alone. And my second question is on the recovery and resiliency plans. Do you expect to, or can we expect the Commission to start assessing this plan immediately? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll focus on vaccines for the moment, and I give the floor to Stefan.
Thank you very much, Susanna. The first thing I would like to stress is that no decision has yet been taken with regard to these legal actions. You know that we have a few weeks ago started this dispute resolution process, which is a process allowed by the contract, allowing the parties to sit together and try to reach an agreement. What matters for us and what matters for all the member states is that we can ensure a timely delivery of a sufficient number of doses by the company. For the time being, as you know, we are not there yet. And so together with the member states, we are looking at all options that are available to make sure that such deliveries can take place. This is all based on the philosophy of our EU vaccine strategy, which calls for a joint approach. That's also the strength of the strategy. So it means that whatever steps are taken or would be taken, these decisions will be taken by the Commission together with the Member States, as again, this is a strategy that we implement together with the Member States. So for the time being, to come back to the question, we are looking at all the options which help us to ensure timely delivery of doses. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stefan. So we will come back to your question on the National Recovery Plan assessment later. Let's continue on vaccines. Please only keep your hand raised if your question is on vaccines. Angela.
Yes, thanks for the floor. Good morning. Actually, it's a follow-up to the previous question on the possibility of a legal action to AstraZeneca. I was wondering if there is a kind of a deadline, even if unofficial, to decide with the member states. And I wanted to know if there is any update on the negotiations with the British government on the AstraZeneca doses. I remember that more than 1 month ago, the Commission announced the beginning of this negotiation. Is there any update, or we can basically conclude that the negotiation is ended with no progress? Thank you.
Thank you. On your second question, no, there is no update that I can give you today, but that does not mean that the negotiations have ended without result. Things are still in progress. On the first question, I give the floor to Stefan.
With regard to deadlines, I don't think there's anything specific that I can tell you. As I told you, the Commission is discussing together with the Member States what could be the next steps. And again, all options are open with a view to ensure that we have sufficient doses delivered. And whatever steps are taken or not taken, this will be discussed together and agreed together with the Member States. But I don't think I can go more into the specifics here. Thank you.
Thank you. We stay on vaccines and vaccination. Oliver.
Yes, hi, thank you. On AstraZeneca, I had a look at the ECDC vaccine tracker, and apparently so far AstraZeneca has only delivered a bit more than 31 million doses to the EU. So that would mean that from the end of March, which is 3 weeks ago, they only managed to deliver a bit more than, or about 2 million doses. Do you have an explanation for that? Did you ask for an explanation from the company why this happened? And a second vaccination question, Valneva announced yesterday that they're not interested in negotiating with you anymore and that they'd rather do it individually with interested member states. Do you have a comment on that? Is it good? Is it bad? Does it not really make a difference? Is it deplorable? Thank you.
It's a menu. On AstraZeneca low deliveries, Stefan.
Thank you very much. Well, as you know, AstraZeneca is not delivering the number of doses which have been agreed upon in the contract. There are issues there, as you know, and this is one of the reasons why we started this dispute resolution procedure. This is one of the reasons why we keep all options open together with member states to take any further steps. As to why certain numbers of doses have been delivered or not delivered, I believe it is best to raise this with the company. In any case, our sole objective here is to make sure that we have indeed a sufficient number of doses, and that's really what our work is totally focused on. With regard to your question on Valneva, yes, we have taken note of the statement of Valneva. What is important is, as you know, that that when companies want their vaccine candidate to be integrated in our EU vaccines portfolio, a certain set of conditions have to be respected, of course. These conditions are very, very well explained explained in our EU vaccine strategy. And what is very important for us here is that we have a solid protection in the areas of liability, safety, effectiveness of the virus, and also solid rules and arrangements for the delivery of the vaccines. After a year of negotiations, the company has not, at this stage, succeeded to meet these conditions, which is one of the reasons why we have not yet reached an agreement. The member states representing the steering board will indeed see and decide jointly how to take things forward. With regard to negotiations starting at bilateral level, I remind you of the principle that you know very well, that our EU vaccine strategy, the success of the EU vaccine strategy is based on joint work, on cooperation, and which is one of the reasons why parallel negotiations are indeed not allowed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Patricia.
Thank you for the floor, Eric. I want to go back on the AstraZeneca legal action. I was wondering whether you said that all options are still on the table, because the real decision should be taken by the end of this week, probably in next Coreper this week. So is it possible to say that the EU is getting ready to go for a legal action against AstraZeneca? Thank you.
Patricia, I'm sorry, but we will make no further comments on this issue. As Stefan has said, no decision has yet been taken, and you will certainly hear about the decision, whatever way it goes, if and when it is finally taken. Griselda.
Merci Eric. C'est sur la même question. Excuse-moi, moi je croyais que quand vous avez envoyé la lettre à AstraZeneca, c'était un peu avant Pâques, vous avez fixé un délai à ce moment-là. Je croyais que c'était plus ou moins un mois en attendant une réponse. Donc, quand il dit que les négociations sont en cours, ça veut dire que réponse vous avez eu, même si il n'est pas suffisant, puisqu'elle continue. Et puis, j'aimerais savoir, vous irez, si nécessaire, aux tribunaux comme Commission européenne, ou pour y aller, vous demandez aux États membres de vous accompagner absolument. Donc, quelles sont les options ouvertes sur ça? Merci.
Merci. Je crois qu'il y a une confusion. Lorsque j'ai dit que les négociations étaient en cours, c'était sur la deuxième question qui avait été posée concernant les contacts avec le Royaume-Uni. Ça n'avait rien à voir avec les discussions dans le cadre du mécanisme de résolution de conflits avec AstraZeneca. Donc il ne faut pas confondre les deux. En ce qui concerne la décision pour aller en justice, si je ne me trompe pas, tu te souviens que le contrat a été signé par la Commission européenne au nom des États membres avec AstraZeneca. Donc c'est une décision, à ma connaissance, de la Commission européenne que les États membres peuvent soutenir. Je me tourne malgré tout vers Stéphane pour voir s'il a un autre commentaire à faire sur ce point.
Non, je pense que tu l'as bien expliqué. Nous avons en effet lancé cette procédure de résolution avant Pâques. C'est vrai, sur base desquelles il y a eu des contacts avec la société, sur base de laquelle nous avons reçu aussi une réponse de la société. Nous n'y sommes pas encore, comme vous le savez. C'est une des raisons pour lesquelles nous examinons ensemble avec les États membres quelles sont les meilleures choses à faire, les meilleures approches à suivre pour assurer la livraison des doses auxquelles les citoyens ont droit et qui ont été promis par la société. Merci.
Merci. Je crains que nous n'allons pas pouvoir vous dire beaucoup plus sur ce sujet. Donc, si vous avez d'autres aspects vaccins, n'hésitez pas. Mais sinon, je crois que nous n'allons que répéter ce que nous avons déjà dit ici. Isabelle.
Oui, c'est toujours sur ça. J'ai deux questions. La première, c'est la commande AstraZeneca. Si je me trompe, au départ, c'était 300 millions. Mais il y a aussi une option de 100 millions de doses en plus. Et donc, je voulais savoir si vous aviez déjà renoncé à l'activer ou pas. Et si la décision n'était pas prise, je voulais savoir s'il y avait une deadline, enfin une date butoir à laquelle il fallait la prendre ou pas. Et j'ai une toute petite question sur la procédure à l'amiable. J'avais gardé le souvenir qu'il devait y avoir une rencontre formelle entre les executive officers des deux entreprises, si je me me souviens bien de l'alinéa du contrat. Et donc, je voulais savoir s'il y avait eu cette rencontre formelle. Je me rappelle que tu m'avais dit que c'était différent des rencontres, des discussions qu'il pouvait y avoir entre Thierry Breton et Pascal Soriot le matin. Donc, je voulais savoir s'il y avait cette rencontre formelle avait bien eu lieu et si oui, quand. Merci.
Merci. Stéphane.
Merci beaucoup. En ce qui concerne le nombre de doses, le contrat prévoit en effet la livraison d'un nombre fixe de 300 millions avec la possibilité de lever ou d'exercer une option. En ce qui concerne AstraZeneca, ce qui compte, et je l'ai souligné à plusieurs reprises, c'est que nous recevons les doses telles qu'ils avaient été promis sur base du contrat et surtout qu'on reçoit les 300 millions de doses telles qu'ils ont été promis par le contrat. En ce qui concerne l'option de 100 millions, entre-temps, le délai pour lever cette option est passé et donc cette option ne sera pas exercée. Mais encore une fois, ce qui compte dans les relations avec la société, c'est que la société puisse faire la livraison d'un nombre suffisant de doses dans les délais convenus. En ce qui concerne la procédure pour la résolution des conflits, il est vrai que le contrat prévoit une rencontre entre les executive officers de la commission de la société. Cette rencontre a effectivement eu lieu, des contacts ont eu lieu dans le cadre de cette procédure. Malheureusement, je ne peux pas te dire quand exactement cette rencontre a eu lieu. Le plus important, c'est de bien savoir que le but de cette procédure, c'est de mettre ensemble les parties pour que les parties puissent arriver à une solution concernant les points qui sont encore ouverts. Et donc, cette procédure est en effet en cours. Merci beaucoup.
Isabelle, tu as un follow-up.
Oui, je voulais juste savoir qui étaient en fait officiellement les deux executive officers dans ces cas-là, si c'était la présidente ou si c'était Thierry Breton ou Stella Kyriakides en fait. Merci.
Non, c'est certainement pas le commissaire.
En effet, c'est prévu dans le contrat. Je pense que c'est la directrice générale de la DG Santé qui est nommée dans le contrat et puis un Vice Executive Officer. Je ne sais pas exactement quelle personne représente la société, mais tu verras que c'est indiqué dans le contrat, l'article 18.5a, je pense. Merci.
Pierre.
Est-ce que c'est bon?
C'est bon.
Je ne suis pas sûr. C'est bon. Ouais. Isabelle a posé mes questions, mais j'en ai une autre. Est-ce que, Stéphane, tu peux nous redonner les chiffres exacts ou ce qu'on a, en tout cas, de plus récent sur ce qui a été déjà livré au titre du deuxième trimestre? Et est-ce qu'on a un bilan définitif sur le premier trimestre?
Les doses de quoi? En général?
Non, AstraZeneca.
Stéphane. Merci. Je ne suis pas en mesure de vous donner des chiffres exacts concernant les doses qui ont été livrées pour le deuxième trimestre. Ce que vous savez, c'est qu'en ce qui concerne le premier trimestre, 30 millions de doses ont été livrées, ce qui est moins que ce qui était prévu contractuellement, évidemment. En ce qui concerne le deuxième trimestre, le contrat prévoyait 180 millions de doses. La société a indiqué être en mesure de livrer 70 millions de doses. Évidemment, nous continuons à suivre de près ces livraisons. Merci.
Merci. Anne. Anne, tu n'as pas la bonne source micro, visiblement.
Je vais changer.
Oui, maintenant ça marche.
Ça marche là? Ok. Là, tu m'entends? Oui. Donc, une première question sur... vous dites, on étudie toutes les options concernant AstraZeneca, mais en fait, quelles sont ces options? Quelles sont les différentes options? Parce que les différentes options, c'est soit de laisser courir, voilà, et soit de continuer à discuter, mais manifestement, ce n'est pas forcément très productif à ce stade, soit d'attaquer. Enfin, donc ça, c'est la première question. Et la deuxième question, il y a une option aussi sur... que la Commission peut exercer sur des achats sur des doses Johnson & Johnson. Est-ce que sur ces options éventuelles, le délai est aussi passé? Et s'il n'est pas passé, à quel moment au plus tard doit s'exercer cette option? Merci.
Merci, je crois que tu as répondu toi-même à ta première question, donc c'est très bien. Effectivement, il faut que l'on voit si l'on peut aboutir à des résultats lors de la négociation avec AstraZeneca, s'il faut que nous employions une route plus formelle encore, plus juridique. En ce qui concerne la deuxième question, je passe la parole à Stéphane.
Merci beaucoup. En effet, en ce qui concerne Johnson & Johnson, le délai pour demander ou d'exercer des options n'est pas encore passé. Les États membres et la Commission peuvent donc à tout moment décider d'exercer cette option sur base d'éléments tels que la situation épidémiologique, la situation du nombre de doses livrées, besoin de doses additionnelles. Donc tout ça, ce sont des éléments qui peuvent être pris en considération pour décider oui ou non d'exercer cette option. Je ne peux pas aller dans les détails du contrat concernant la procédure, quand est-ce que quoi doit se faire pour exercer ces options. Cette option est encore possible et les États membres et la Commission auront donc la possibilité d'exercer cette option. Merci.
David.
Oui, merci. Une question technique, si je peux. Si vous allez en justice, quelles sont les conséquences pour les doses? Est-ce que AstraZeneca peut interrompre les livraisons?
Ça m'étonnerait fortement, mais on va poser la question à Stéphane s'il a la réponse. Stéphane.
En effet, il ne faut pas s'étonner. Ça, c'est quelque chose sur lequel, David, je ne peux pas me prononcer. D'abord, aucune décision n'a été prise. Il faut d'abord que les États membres et la Commission se mettent d'accord sur le chemin à suivre. Et puis, on verra, une fois la décision prise, de prendre un chemin X ou chemin Y, on verra quels pourraient être, le cas échéant, les aspects ou les conséquences juridiques. Mais encore une fois, aucune décision n'a été prise. Merci.
Isabelle, tu souhaites revenir sur le sujet?
Oui, excuse-moi, vous m'entendez ou pas? Oui. Je monopolise la parole, mais je relaye la question d'un collègue qui en fait n'arrive pas à se connecter au système. C'est sur le vaccin Sputnik. Le ministre-président de Saxe, qui est en Russie, vient d'annoncer que l'Allemagne envisageait d'acheter 30 millions de doses avec livraison de 10 millions de doses par mois de vaccin Sputnik entre juin et août. Donc je voulais savoir si vous aviez été tenu au courant par Berlin de cette demande, et je voulais savoir, étant donné que le commissaire breton dit que nous n'avons pas besoin de ces vaccins, ce que vous inspirait ce projet allemand. Merci.
Je ne suis pas du tout au courant de cette annonce. Stéphane?
Moi non plus. Ce que je pourrais cependant confirmer, c'est que notre ligne que nous avons toujours pris dans le cadre de notre press room ici, c'est deux choses. D'abord, les États membres ont la possibilité, ont le droit d'acheter des vaccins qui ne font pas partie du portefeuille de vaccins qui a été négocié au niveau européen. Donc cette possibilité existe toujours. Ça, c'est un premier élément. Le deuxième élément, c'est que ce qui est très important pour nous, c'est que la sûreté et l'efficacité du vaccin est bien vérifiée par l'Agence des médicaments européens pour le principe de la sécurité même, mais aussi pour qu'on puisse construire suffisamment de confiance de la part des citoyens. Et donc, sûreté, efficacité, c'est très important. C'est une des raisons pour lesquelles nous insistons sur l'importance d'avoir ce vaccin, comme tous les vaccins, vérifiés par l'Agence des médicaments européens. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Anne, tu as une question de suivi ou une autre question sur le même sujet?
Vous m'entendez?
Nous t'entendons, oui.
Nous t'entendons, oui. D'accord. Oui, la question de suivi, c'est bon. Alors, je pense que vous ne pouvez pas, vous ne souhaitez pas donner de détails sur le contrat Johnson & Johnson, mais concernant le contrat AstraZeneca, est-ce qu'il serait possible de savoir à quel moment, quelle était la date limite pour exercer cette option sur les 100 millions de doses supplémentaires?
Stéphane.
Merci Anne. Je ne vais pas pouvoir aller dans le détail de ces aspects juridiques. Je sais qu'il y a des délais qui sont prévus dans le contrat qui permettent la Commission d'exercer l'option avec les États membres. Il me semble que c'est lié à la soumission de rapports de tests cliniques, mais la date exacte, malheureusement, ça je ne pourrais pas te dire. En tout cas, ce qui importe pour nous, c'est que le nombre de doses fixes sur lesquelles on s'est mis d'accord avec la société, les 300 millions de doses, que là, on voit quand même la livraison telle que c'était prévu par le contrat. Donc, toutes nos activités sont concentrées sur cet aspect-là. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Évidemment, la Commission regarde, avant de prendre ce genre de décision, la manière dont l'entreprise, que ce soit AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson ou d'autres, se conforme à ce qui a été prévu dans l'accord de préachat et livre selon le rythme agréé avec les membres du steering board les doses aux différents États membres. Et comme tu sais, en ce qui concerne Johnson & Johnson, nous sommes encore au tout début de cette distribution. Nous suivons ça évidemment attentivement, mais je ne pourrais pas affirmer ici que nous sommes arrivés à un stade où il est possible à la Commission de décider avec les États membres d'exercer ou non l'option. Je crois que c'est un peu prématuré. Voilà, je ne vois plus d'autres questions pour nous sur les aspects vaccins. Et donc, nous allons revenir à la question de Susanna sur le timing de l'analyse du plan de relance et de résilience portugais. Je passe la parole à Martha pour nous répondre sur ce point et si l'analyse va commencer immédiatement.
Oui, merci Eric. I think the question was in English, so I'll answer in English as well. So indeed, I'm sure Susanna has seen our press release this morning where we have acknowledged indeed the reception of the Portuguese Recovery and Resilience Plan. This is the first official submission under the Recovery and Resilience Facility, which also means that it opens a new chapter, a new phase in the process of implementing the facility. And it means also that in the case of Portugal, we will start our in-depth assessment of the plan as of now. Just to recall that the regulation envisages 2 months for the assessment of plans and for translating them into legally binding acts. So the Commission's assessment will be published as a proposal for a Council implementing decision. It will be also accompanied by a staff working document explaining the Commission views on the plans. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sandor has a question as well on national recovery plans. Go ahead, Sandor.
Yes, thank you, Eric. So tomorrow, Prime Minister Orbán will meet Ursula von der Leyen, President von der Leyen, especially on the recovery and the resilience facility. And first of all, I would like to know the technicalities. When is the meeting happening? Will there be any doorsteps, or how we are going to know the outcome? And also, I would like to know how the Commission is preparing for this meeting, because in Hungary we know there is loads of criticism towards the Hungarian plan. They are saying that this plan is not green enough, there are not enough reforms, and there are problems with the public procurements. So I would like to know if President von der Leyen is raising these issues, or what is her point at the meeting tomorrow?
Thank you very much, Sandor. On the technicalities, as you say, normally there will be a photo opportunity in the VIP corner on the arrival of the Prime Minister. The President will, of course, greet the Prime Minister, as is the case for such encounters. Then, indeed, the meeting will take place in late afternoon, early evening. Timings tend to change from time to time, so as you know, I'm always very careful when it comes to exact timings. We will give you more information closer to the event when it comes to the VIP corner opportunity for the photographers. When it comes to the way we are preparing, as you can imagine, the Commission has a very comprehensive process to analyze the plans, even in the early stages of the preparation. We've had the opportunity to tweet regularly on the meetings of the steering board that is presided by the president that meets regularly in order to analyze the state of play in terms of preparation of the plans by the different member states. And then Executive Vice President Dombrovskis debriefs the college on these issues every time that one of those meetings has taken place. So you can rest assured that the college as a whole and also obviously the president are following this very closely. Now, it is not for me to tell you what position the president will take at the meeting tomorrow, but we will certainly provide a readout of the meeting afterwards. Okay, we continue on the issue of recovery. Tommaso, do you have a question on this? No. Catherine, a question on recovery plans.
Yes, it's a question for Marta, I think. I think I've raised it before, but MEPs, Hungarian MEPs have raised the question about Hungary's program and about the failure to consult with municipality leaders, mayors, and it seems to be motivated by the fact that they are not of the same political persuasion as Viktor Orban. So I'm just wondering, is this an issue that is going to be raised in the meeting with Viktor Orban? Will you raise the involvement of municipalities in the recovery fund, because it does seem to be pretty critical to the green dimension of that program to ensure, for example, green public transport plans, etc. So I'm just wondering, is this something that's going to be raised?
Thank you, Catherine. As I said previously, I'm not going to go into the details of the president's speaking points to Viktor Orban. More generally, it is indeed an important dimension of the work that the local and regional dimension be taken into account in the proper manner. And I will give the floor back to Marta on this specific element when it comes not only to Hungary, but more generally to the role of the local and regional dimension. Marta.
Thank you very much indeed, Catherine. So I think we indeed had already the pleasure to explain our policy towards, involving stakeholders when it comes to the recovery and resilience plan. So we have been very much pushing for strong national ownership at all levels in member states in the preparation of the recovery and resilience plans. So that basically means involving stakeholders at all stages, so both in the design, but also then in the implementation of national recovery and resilience plans, because we believe that this is a prerequisite for achieving a sustainable recovery as well, and a successful implementation of those plans. So we have been calling on various occasions at all levels on member states to engage in a broad policy dialogue with social partners, but also, of course, regional and local actors in the preparation of the plans. As you know, there are also legal provisions on this, which have been included in the regulation, so approved by both co-legislators. So it reinforces the need to involve those stakeholders, and member states will have to actually report in their plans on how the consultation was conducted, for example, with local and regional authorities, but other organizations as well. We have also stressed that point in the revised guidelines we have published to member states, and of course we will be paying close attention to that once we receive the plans from member states. Thank you.
Yes, let me take this opportunity to simply emphasize the fact that tomorrow is not a meeting at which anything will be decided. It will be a discussion. Once the Hungarian authorities submit their final plan, then, as you know, there will be a period of assessment by the European Commission of the plans, including the Hungarian one, before they can be transmitted to the Council for approval. So we will have an opportunity to review that both in terms of substance and in terms of process, the authorities have followed and respected the objectives and the philosophy that stand behind the Recovery and Resilience Facility and the drawing up of these national reform plans. Duarte. Yes, go ahead. We cannot hear you. Go ahead. We can see you, but not hear you for some reason. We believe it's because you have your headset on. Perhaps if you take your headset off. Yeah, I mean, unplug it, not just take it off your ears.
Expects that the Commission doesn't take...
Hold on, can you start over again? Because we didn't hear the beginning of your question.
Okay. A quick technical follow-up about the Portuguese plan, because the Portuguese government said today that expects the Commission could evaluate the plan in less time than the 2 months on the regulation. My question is this feasible? Can we expect that the plan could be approved by the Commission in less than the 2 months expected? Thank you.
That's what you call friendly pressure. Marta.
Thank you very much for this question. And indeed, my first answer, I stressed that the regulation provides for the Commission to assess the plans received within 2 months. So let me perhaps explain a little bit where we stand on also our discussions with the Portuguese. So, of course, we have been working intensively with Portugal on the preparation of its recovery and resilience plans. And during that phase, we have provided recommendations to address gaps and outstanding issues. Of course, we were aiming at avoiding that the plans contain measures that could have been problematic. Now that the plan has been formally submitted, we will still have to assess its content against the 11 criteria, which are set out in the regulation. And importantly, we will also have to translate the content of this plan into legally binding acts. And that implies the drafting of a proposal for a council implementing decision, a staff working document, but also preparation of operational documents such as the financing agreement, the loan agreement, and others operational arrangements. And you can understand that this will take some time. Those are important legal documents because the council implementing decision will encapsulate the reform and the investment commitment of member states, Portugal in this case, the milestones and the targets which will be included then in this implementing decision will be used as the yardstick against which the member states will be held accountable. So of course this has to be drafted with great care. And of course we will proceed as fast as possible, but the quality of the assessment and of the legal acts that we'll be preparing will be our primary concern. Also because the future payments, disbursements under these decisions will be based on those legal acts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mathieu. No mic source. Tu n'as pas de source micro, Mathieu, visiblement.
Là, vous m'entendez?
Ça marche maintenant, vas-y.
C'est bon? Ah ok, bonjour. Martha, est-ce que tu peux, s'il te plaît, simplement nous rappeler combien de fonctionnaires travaillent dans la task force qui est chargée donc d'analyser les plans nationaux de relance? Est-ce que vous comptez suggérer ou proposer l'adoption de ces plans nationaux au fur et à mesure de leur présentation par les États membres, ou est-ce que ça sera plutôt une logique de paquet qui sera privilégiée? Merci.
Martha.
Merci Mathieu. Alors, j'ai probablement pas le chiffre exact de nombre de personnes qui travaillent au sein de la task force en ce moment. Je sais qu'au moment où la task force était créée, il était envisagé d'avoir une équipe de plus ou moins 80 personnes. Mais je pense qu'il est important, c'est de comprendre que ce n'est pas uniquement cette task force qui travaille sur l'évaluation des plans et le dialogue avec les États membres. C'est une task force qui coordonne, bien sûr, aussi en contact avec d'autres directions générales de la Commission qui sont spécialisées dans les différents sujets qui sont bien sûr inclus dans ces plans nationaux, que ce soit des questions économiques, énergétiques, sociales et autres. Donc il y a beaucoup plus de personnes qui effectivement sont engagées à la Commission sur le travail sur les plans de relance et de résilience. Et je crois que ta deuxième question, peut-être tu peux me la rappeler. Désolée.
C'était si nous allions adopter nos recommandations et
Ah oui,
transmettre au
pardon.
Conseil individuellement ou par paquet.
Oui, merci beaucoup. Alors effectivement, donc, comme je l'ai expliqué, nous avons 2 mois pour faire une évaluation des plans. Donc, c'était quelque chose dont nous allons nous tenir. Donc, nous n'allons pas attendre que d'autres plans nous parviennent afin de finaliser notre évaluation. Donc, voilà, c'est tout ce que je peux dire pour l'instant. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Et Mathieu, pour avoir eu le plaisir et l'honneur de travailler pendant plusieurs années sur le semestre européen et avoir passé un nombre incalculable d'heures dans des réunions avec des collègues de tous les services pour analyser les rapports pays et ensuite les CSRs, Country Specific Recommendations, dans le cadre du semestre européen, je peux te dire que même s'il y a toujours effectivement une équipe qui centralise et qui coordonne, c'est un effort qui implique l'ensemble de la maison, et à juste titre, étant donné la diversité, la palette de sujets qui sont abordés dans ce genre de stratégie économique, comme le seront les plans de relance nationaux ou comme le sont les rapports pays dans le cadre du semestre européen. Angela.
Yes, thank you again and hi again. Just a clarification. So is it technically possible that the Commission approves the plans before the process of ratification of the own resources decision is finished in June? Is this technically possible? And the other question is, can we expect that the other 3 plans which were said to be almost ready last week, the French one, the Spanish one, and the Greek one, are going to be presented this week already? Thanks.
Marta.
Thank you. On your first question, I think you need to distinguish between the 2 processes. On one hand, we have the preparation of the recovery and resilience plans, which follow their own track. So member states submit them. We then have 2 months to approve them, to assess them, and present a proposal to the Council, who has then, as a rule, 4 weeks to provide its final approval. In parallel, there's the process of ratification of the own resources decision, and which is of course very important because it relates to our ability then to go to the markets, raise the funds necessary in order to be able to do disbursements. So those processes are separate. Of course, they're running in parallel, and of course we hope that everything will be in place in summer. Thank you. Sorry, and on your second question, on the preparation of the plans of the remaining countries, as we have stressed in our press release this morning, we of course remain in intensive dialogue with all the member states on the preparation and finalization of the recovery and resilience plans. We of course expect a number of countries to finalize their plans ahead of the 30th of April, which is an orientation date for us. Of course, at this stage, I'm not able to tell you precisely which member states will be ready, but we are obviously continuing our intensive dialogues with all of them. Thank you.
Angela, you have a follow-up. Or do you just forget to unraise your hand?
Sorry, I forgot to push the button. I was saying, obviously, you have to wait until the ratification process is finished before approving even one plan, because, I mean, until June, you have to wait that the process is finished, because otherwise, if all the member states, if one member state does not ratify, the process the Commission can't go to the markets to get the money, basically. So you can't approve the plans before this process, which is separate from the approval of the national plans, before this process is finished. Can we conclude this?
No, Angela, I think there's a misunderstanding there. What Marta was saying is that it's not the Commission who approves the plans, it's the Council. What we do is we make a proposal, and your question related to whether the Commission could finalize its assessment, and you said decide, but in fact or approve, but it's not, we don't approve the plans. We make a proposal to the Council, and it's then the Council that approves. Okay? So the time link is not between our internal assessment of the plans and the own resources decision. It's between the moment when we will be able to go to the markets to finance, as you rightly say, and the approval by the council. But even there, I mean, nothing would stop necessarily the council from approving the plans, and then they would be on standby until the own resources decision and all the other technical steps that need to be taken for the Commission to be able to go to the markets and raise the money are finalized. That's the link. It's not at the level of our assessment of the plans. I hope that clarifies the issue. Catherine.
Hello. Yes, Eric, I have a question. Really, what I would like is a comment. Yesterday, there was an announcement by 5 environmental and I think it was 1 consumer organization that they were pulling out of the platform on sustainable finance that advises the European Commission on its green taxonomy. And I'm just wondering if you have any comment on that decision. They're very prominent, well-known organizations, Transport Environment, World Wildlife Fund, the consumer organization, BirdLife. So is there a comment from your side? I think their main objection is on the inclusion of biomass and various forestry practices. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Before we move to your question, let me see if there are any other questions on the issue of the RRF and the national reform, the national recovery plans. That does not seem... Yes, Virginie, tu as une question sur les plans de relance. We'll come back to your question, Catherine.
Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Nous t'entendons. Nous sommes sur les plans de relance nationaux.
Oui, oui. Je voulais savoir, tu as dit que la Commission n'approuvait pas les plans de relance nationaux, que c'était le Conseil qui le faisait. Mais alors, je ne comprends pas très bien parce que je pensais qu'il fallait que la Commission donne au moins, alors je dis ça de mémoire, donc je vais peut-être me tromper, mais au moins 7A sur 11 pour que le plan puisse être, c'est quand même une préapprobation, et ensuite puisse être transmis à l'approbation du Conseil. Donc, je n'ai pas compris ta remarque, en fait. Je suis un peu surprise. Je pensais qu'il fallait une double approbation, une première par la Commission et ensuite, évidemment, par le Conseil.
Je crois que là, nous jouons sur les mots. C'était pour expliquer le fait que, comme l'avait expliqué Martha, la finalisation du processus, c'est la décision du Conseil. Ça n'est pas la proposition que fait la Commission. Alors, tu peux appeler ça de différentes manières, je suppose. Évidemment, il y a un élément d'approbation en ce sens que l'on dit, OK, le plan nous paraît bon, nous l'envoyons au Conseil. Mais ça n'est pas l'approbation finale du plan, c'est le Conseil qui le fait. Et donc, comme le disait Martha, il n'y a pas de lien entre, et certainement pas de conditionnalité quant à notre transmission au Conseil d'un plan national, avec la finalisation du processus de ratification de la décision ressources propres. C'est ça qu'on essayait de mettre en exergue. Le reste, c'est une question de vocabulaire, mais tu as tout à fait raison de souligner le fait que l'évaluation qui est faite par la Commission des plans nationaux et qui mène à une proposition de la Commission au Conseil pour l'approbation du plan est évidemment un moment et une phase essentielle du processus, et cette recommandation est un élément clé dans le processus et une étape à franchir pour arriver à un résultat final positif qui permet ensuite le versement de fonds à l'État membre. J'espère que ça clarifie les choses. Je ne vois maintenant vraiment plus d'autres questions sur ce sujet, et donc je passe la parole à Dan pour la question sur le plan de financement durable.
Thanks very much, Eric. And hi, Catherine. Thanks for your question. I think, first of all, more generally, on the Sustainable Finance Package that was put forward yesterday and on the Taxonomy Delegated Act, you will have seen Executive Vice President Dombrovskis and Commissioner McGuinness in the press room. And I'm sure you have studied all of our press material in detail that provides lots and lots of detail on why we adopted the delegated act in the way that we did and the various different processes involved there. On your specific question on WWF and the other NGO representatives on the platform of sustainable finance, we are of course aware of the concerns that were raised by them. We take these concerns very seriously, and we are fully committed to reflect on how to improve the process, on how technical screening criteria are developed and set. We will respond to the concerns that have been raised, and we will engage with the platform on this. I think a general point to make here is that the package that was adopted yesterday is the best possible package at this current moment in time. In preparing the Taxonomy Delegated Act, we were of course guided by the Taxonomy Regulation, which is the legal framework in this area. Of course, anything that we do in this area has to be science-based, it has to be usable, it has to be politically acceptable, and it's our responsibility here in the Commission to ensure that that balance between all of those objectives, whilst maintaining the criteria and the credibility of the criteria, is maintained. I think one point that was raised yesterday in the press conference by both the Executive Vice President and the Commissioner is that the Delegated Act itself is a living document. It will be updated as science and technology develops. And of course, the platform on sustainable finance will be instrumental in this development. So that's all I have to say on that. The work with the platform will continue, and there is no change at the moment in terms of scheduled deliverables. Thank you.
Catherine, you have a follow-up.
Whoops. Yeah. So sorry, Dan. You said that you're going to continue to engage with the platform, but these organizations have pulled out of the platform. Would you urge them, therefore, to rejoin it?
Dan.
Catherine, look, all I'd say is that we're aware of the concerns that were raised by these different groups in the platform. We will, of course, take these very seriously. We will engage with the platform. We will engage with everybody, actually. You know, I think one thing in this whole taxonomy story is, you know, we can't be criticized for not listening enough to the various different stakeholders in this area. So that's all I have to say for now.
We believe that dialogue is always necessary, and that dialogue will continue to be necessary in this process as we move along, Catherine. That's absolutely certain. Are there other questions on sustainable finance for us today? No, so I go to Tommaso. Tommaso Galavotti.
Yes, good afternoon. Tommaso Galavotti at Kronos Italy. Thank you for the floor. I apologize, but I have to return on the issue of Alitalia, as yesterday it was not possible to ask questions on competition to Vice President Vestager. I would like to know, please, if Arianna can enlighten us on the state of play of the negotiations with the Italian government. As I've read on the Italian press that the government has had to anticipate between 15 and 18 million euros for the salaries of the employees. And also, if you can remind us, I know them very well, but it's just to have a reminder of the conditions which would allow to identify ITA as in discontinuity with the old Italia. Thank you.
I hope that Arianna understood the last part of your question, because I did not, but Arianna.
Hi, good morning. I hope you hear me and see me. So I'll try to take the questions in the order, but please tell me if I forget anything. So on your first question concerning the payment of the salaries, we have seen the press reports and have no specific comment. In general, it is for member states to assess whether a measure involves state aid that needs to be notified to the Commission under EU rules. So this is for the specific question you were asking about the salaries. More in general, state of play is that we are in contact with the Italian authorities. We remain in contact with them, and yeah, we cannot really prejudge the timing or the outcome of these contacts. The last question, Tommaso, if I understood correctly, you were asking about the conditions in general for economic discontinuity. Can you confirm if this was your query, please?
It was, yeah, it's correct.
Sorry, I had to press again on speak. So what I can say in general on economic discontinuity is that it's made of a number of factors. These factors include, for example, we cannot really comment on the specific questions, but in general, the analysis of economic discontinuity is a set of indicators that we take into account, including the scope of the assets transferred, also the price of the transfer, the identity of the buyer, the timing of the transfer, and generally the economic logic of the transaction. And we cannot really at this stage make any further consideration on the issue of economic continuity, because of course we are in discussions and we don't have conclusive elements on it.
David, tu as une question de concurrence aussi.
Oui, merci. Arianna, how is it possible that the Italian government adopt measure to pay salaries of a private company without notifying you or asking you? And since the history of Alitalia is quite long, with other initiative that has been taken by the government without notifying you as the first, for example, bridge loan, why are you not in contact asking to the Italian government to explain what they are doing with not only taxpayer money, but with also, I mean, the fact that they are distorting competition every day with this Alitalia case?
Arianna.
David, if I can, as I said, on the payment of the salaries, we have seen the press reports and have no specific comment on it. It's always for the member state to analyze if a measure involves state aid that has to be notified to us. More generally, we're referring to the bridge loans, as you know very well, concerning the bridge loans received by Alitalia in 2017, the famous 900 million. We have opened a state aid investigation. Same goes for the second loan of 400 million that it has received, I believe, in 2019 or 2018, open investigation in 2019. Both investigations are ongoing. You know it very well. We cannot really prejudge their timing or outcome, but also Executive Vice President Vestager has mentioned several times in the press room that we are working on them. And of course, in this context, we are in contact with the Italian authorities precisely on the doubts concerning the compatibility of the measures and thus the effect on competition. So it's part of the assessment, clearly.
Okay, we've been here for an hour and a half. Now, David, one last follow-up on this, and then I'll move to Katie for the last question today. No further question, David?
Oui, merci. Je voudrais savoir si la Commission a intention de demander des explications. Première, est-ce qu'elle peut demander des explications? Elle a l'intention ou elle va faire l'autruche comme l'a fait en occasion du premier prêt à l'Italie?
David, je pense que Arianna a répondu à cette question. Elle a dit c'est à l'État membre d'analyser s'il y a une aide d'État impliquée et dans ce cas de communiquer à la Commission. Donc je ne pense pas qu'elle va changer sa réponse sur ce point. Je t'invite à continuer les contacts au niveau bilatéral avec elle si tu le souhaites. Nous passons à Katie. Katie, you have the last question today. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Katie Scholes, Sky News. My question is concerning travel restrictions for third countries. There's a lot of reports suggesting that some countries such as Greece, Spain, Portugal may go against the recommendation of the EU for lifting restrictions for countries that are specifically on the third country travel list. My question is simply, what is the Commission's position on that?
Thank you. A question for Adalbert. I hope he hasn't given up on us. Adalbert. Es-tu là? He seems not to be present. That would have surprised me very much. Adalbert, come back.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I hope you weren't having lunch, Adalbert.
It's purely a technical issue that was keeping me. I wish I was at that stage already. Right. So I'm sorry, my camera doesn't seem to work either. But let me maybe give you the answer to this question. So. Member States, as you know, have agreed on a Council recommendation regarding coordination of free movement restrictions and also on external travel. Right now, we're in a situation where we are slowly trying to ease restrictions, including in relation to travel, but the epidemiological situation remains critical, with the spread of variants remaining a serious concern. And a coordinated approach on the European level remains essential. Now, this coordinated approach is clearly set out in a Council recommendation which was agreed by Member States and which should continue to be applied. This is in the interest of all Member States and of the EU in general, and Member States have underlined themselves the need to have such a common approach. Any unilateral approach should be avoided. This said, regarding the external travel restriction, we are looking now into options to propose amendments to the existing Council recommendation to take into account recent developments, notably vaccination. And in fact, on Monday this week, there was a first discussion on this issue in the Council group called IPCR, based on a Commission non-paper. I can also add that regarding the digital green certificates, we are working to make sure that the certificates are compatible with systems in countries outside the EU and are putting in place a system for the recognition of third country certificates of comparable security. So this is where we stand at the moment, and it's a developing situation.
Katie, you have a follow-up.
Yes, please, just a quick one. You mentioned that you're working with countries to make sure the digital green certificates are compatible. Are you having specific conversations with the UK authorities about this?
We've already had that question here on the podium, Katie, and we have said that we are not currently in contact with the United Kingdom on this. Thank you very much. This brings us to the end of today's midday briefing, and see you tomorrow.